Hello, we're so excited to have you.
Excited to be here.
Do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Jada Foster.
Well, we have picked you to be our Musician of the Month. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Answer them to the best of your ability.
Okay.
How do you pick your instrument?
Well,
More importantly, what is your instrument?
saxophone. I actually started out with alto saxophone, and then I moved on. Mr. Harmon, our former band teacher, wanted a jazz band, so he had me in Barry saxophone instead. And then since he's gone now and we lost our tenor player, I started playing tenor to make up for the lack of tenor.
What are the differences? Is it just size?
No. It can be kind of difficult to like alter between the instruments. Like some require more, you have to be more focused with your air. You have to like produce air in like different ways and everything. And it takes a lot of adjusting too, especially if you go like from like tenor to Barry, because it's very different sizes and everything. But like how you do the airflow and just everything like that is a little bit different, but once you get used to it, it gets easier and easier.
Well, I guess this kind of already answered it, but are there any other instruments you've tried in the past?
I actually, since I was in like middle school when I started, like everybody wanted to do saxophone, and we didn't have many, so I started with clarinet actually, like in the very, very beginning for a little bit until I could get a saxophone, which was pretty fun. And that got me like starting like since it was like also a woodwind, it was helpful to have a little bit of experience. And I've tried like piano and stuff like that and guitar. Never really got the hand of guitar. I'm still working on it. But yeah.
Well, I'm a little biased. I think clarinet has to be the best instrument, but you can argue with me after the fact. What's the hardest thing you've had to learn with your instrument, or in your case, instruments, given the fact you switch between them so often?
How to multitask. Like how to learn different things and not be afraid to put yourself out there and try different things, it was difficult, but it was also one of the most rewarding things I think I've learned.
Is there anyone you can like thank for your passion?
I like to thank my grandpa and my grandma, but especially my grandpa, because he always goes to my pep band, and he's always been a supporter. He always loves to go whenever he can and support me, even though he's more of a sports guy, but he tries his best to support me, like, as he knows how to do it, and I just am very grateful to have my grandma and my grandpa to have, like, them support me in what I want to do, My grandma would go if she could, but she has to take care of kids and everything, so usually she's busy, but she still always listens whenever I have accomplishments, and she's always proud of me too, which is very nice to have.
Oh, I bet it is. Are you planning to continue with your instrument after high school or into college?
I do genuinely love playing my instrument, and I would love to branch out into something else and like continue to grow in my musical career, but I'm not entirely sure yet what I want to do. But I would, if it's possible, if I could get a job, hypothetically, that has good pay with my instrument, then yes, I would absolutely love to. Like, that would be a dream for me to be able to play and make money in the way that I need to, in this economy or whatever.
I think it's a dream of many's to be able to play their instrument. Yeah. Would you keep it as a hobby?
I think I definitely would. I think it would be difficult if I went into a different type of branch, like, because I also love writing and whatever else. So if I were to, I think it might get pushed to the side if that's not what I want to pursue. But I would love to still keep music in my life, absolutely.
What's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome? If you want to tell me about your life, you could, but I'm talking about instruments at the moment.
Let me tell you my whole life story. I'm kidding.
We have time,
but
mostly.
I think the hardest thing was probably wanting to quit and not doing that, because middle school was a very hard time for me in all sorts of ways. And so really, I don't know, I kind of had this like feeling inside, like I knew it was worth it, even though I hated it. And I'd like when I had my Barry for the first time, it was horrible because that thing is huge and I'd have to carry it to school or like drag it to school. Oh my gosh, it would be a nightmare. But I knew like something in me deep down, even though like I'd cuss out the instrument every day walking with it and I'd have to deal with it and it's super heavy. Like,
I've had to carry it once, never again.
Yeah, right. It's a pain. But I just knew like something deep inside it was worth it, and teaching myself to listen to that instead of just doing the easiest way was very difficult, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I stayed.
This is one of my favorite parts. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions off the cuff. You answer them if you don't want to. You ain't gotta.
Okay.
Do you think coming from a different woodwind instrument helped you majorly, or do you think it was just a nice kick up?
What do you mean by that? Like a different woodwind instrument. What do you mean? Do you mean the clarinet or the different saxophones?
Clarinet, because even though the different saxophones are all different, the clarinet has like what I presume slightly differenter.
I would say yes, it did, and it also did give me an introduction, which was helpful. Instead of just having to wait and like go to a different instrument, it was nice to be able to have a woodwind. So then I could start getting used to like the reeds and everything and how to properly attach everything and put everything together. I felt like that was, it wasn't anything major because it wasn't a long period where I had to play it, but it was still nice to be able to start into something and recognize like what woodwinds are and like how to properly assemble them, and you know, like you working on your airflow and distribution while you're playing it was nice to have the introduction. Yes.
Have you been to anything like bi-state or tri-state or something like that?
I was going to do that this year, but some other things came up and I didn't complete it on time, but I am planning on doing that next year.
What are you going into next year?
What do you mean?
Junior, senior?
Junior year.
Junior year. Has there been any like competitions you were part of with your band?
There was last year, that big competition.
Big competition? What was that big competition?
I'm not entirely sure what it was off the top of my head, but I remember that we competed against different schools, and we hadn't competed since like 2008, just ironically when I was born. But that was really nice. That was a really fun experience to actually like put ourselves out there. And even like the judges had stated, they were like, it's great to see you guys competing and actually like doing stuff, because we haven't seen Mount Olive actually compete in a very long time, which is I think that's also what caused me to stay even after our director was gone, like our actual music director, because I just like having an experience like that, it'd be hard to just throw everything away after that. Like I'm still like, I have such a love for band now after being, you know, in that kind of opportunity, you know.
Has it been hard since your old band director left?
Very hard. I think it's been hard on everyone. In all honesty, I think it's been hard for everybody to truly, like, think that he's gone. Like, we've all made jokes and been like, oh, like, haha, just waiting for him to, like, come back and say it was all a joke. But it genuinely is very stressful with, like, say, pep band for basketball games. It's been very difficult because we've had to, like, direct ourselves and figure out how to get everybody together when a lot of people just wanted to give up, rightfully so. I'm not, you know, harshing on anyone. But it has been very difficult, admittedly, but, you know, it's that perseverance and, like, trying to push through that and still stay with something because you know it's worth it. It's a hard lesson, but it's a really good lesson to learn, I feel.
I remember back whenever I was in band, I think last year, so you were there too. The man himself made a joke about interviewing him for different job positions, and oh, that was one of the most cruel jokes he could have made back then.
Especially the foreshadowing.
Oh, can't help with that, can you? Yeah. Have you found any opportunities to step up in band, or have you sat down?
I mean, I feel like, okay, since I was playing Barry for a long time, it was kind of becoming stagnant almost in a way because we didn't have a director anymore, so we weren't getting much new music and we weren't really branching out into anything else. And again, like I said, our tenor player was gone. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I want to start doing something else. I want to, like, branch out. And I knew, although going into a different saxophone isn't entirely, because it's the same fingerings and everything, it's not an entirely big difference, but it was nice to have something different and be able to learn new music. Like, I took home the pep band binder that night and learned as much as I could, and it was definitely, I feel like it was growth and it was a lot of change, but it was really nice, especially because it's more, the tenor parts are usually more involved than the Barry, because the Barry is more like the big background, you know what I mean? Which is like with most low instruments are usually just the background, and like you don't really notice that they're there, but you'll notice when they're not there type thing, you know? But I wanted to, you know, contribute more, and especially there was that lacking part because of the Barry player being gone. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that. And I feel like that's helped me step up a little bit more and become more confident in my playing, and I'm very grateful that I was allowed to. And I did want like, I do want to pursue, like, other instruments, like piano and everything that I love very much, and I've always loved. But I wanted to play it more safe because we don't have a director, technically. And so I just felt like something into, like, a new saxophone would be more of a slower approach to something new.
I think a lot of people have found that trying to shift to a different instrument or getting to know a different instrument more has definitely kept their spark alive in band.
Very much so.
I think it's a very important thing because, like you said, it can get stagnant, and that's whenever you start losing it. What would you tell someone who's just joined band or struggling with it?
I would say I can't speak for them, and I can't say how their experience is going to go, and I can't say that they're going to love it as much as I love it. But I would say try and stick it out for a few years. Like, if this is genuinely something you love and you're having fun doing it, even if you're bad, continue, because I was horrible when I started. Because I feel like saxophone can be very difficult, but I was also not very musically inclined at the beginning, and I'd have to write all of my notes. But I feel like once I stopped living in fear and living in, oh, I have to prepare, I have to be ready, like, everything has to be perfect, like, all of my notes I would have to write down, like, the fingerings for it, or, like, what they were. But once I started, like, I stopped doing that, is when I started to grow. Like, once I started being like, okay, I know I have to learn sight reading, this is really hard for me, but it's something that I have to work on, and just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible, and just because you're scared doesn't mean you shouldn't, you know?
Do you think, like, you were trying to perfect it? Is that what you think was holding you back, or were you just, like, intimidated by other players, or?
I think I was partially, I feel like everybody has somebody that they look up to, and I don't know if I would say intimidated, but, like, somebody that you kind of envy a little bit. You're like, man, they're so good. But if you really put that effort into yourself and, like, stop focusing on other people, and if anybody's ahead of you, it doesn't matter. You're going to catch up one day. Just focus on yourself. And I don't know. Like, I just feel like it was definitely a really good thing. Like, learning that even though you're scared, you shouldn't just stop yourself from doing it, because you'll never know your true opportunity unless you actually chase after it. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Well, is there anything that you'd like to leave off on?
I'm not entirely sure. I would say that band has probably taught me the most, because it's the thing that I've stayed the most consistent with in my life, because I just knew, like, there's just those things that you just know, like, they're going to be important. And even though in the beginning I hated band so much because I was not good at all, and I would get very discouraged often. Like, I would constantly be like, oh man, they're so much better than me, I'll never be as good. But then once I started, instead of blaming everybody else and thinking about everybody else and thinking about, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you're putting in. And you have to think, okay, I don't like where I'm at right now. What are the things that I can fix, and what are the things that I can't? Right now, I'm still young, I'm still learning, and I have to accept that. That's hard to accept because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be perfect, and just accepting, like, it's okay to not be perfect, but you have to recognize, what am I doing wrong and how can I grow? And I feel like that's helped me, like, academically too. It's like, okay, I don't like how I can't sight read, just for example. And then growing on that, and stop writing down all your notes and everything, and just practice and practice and practice. And once you start doing that, then you'll grow more. Even though, again, like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, just because you're scared doesn't mean you should not do it. It's like, genuinely, I say it multiple times, but it is genuinely something I've had to learn, because I've always been the type to get discouraged if I wasn't immediately good at something, or if I wasn't immediately, like, felt like I fit in, or felt like I was good enough. Like, I felt like I shouldn't even try. But that's the opposite from the truth.
I think that is a great thing to end off with. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
We are so happy that we were able to interview you.
I'm glad that I was able to be interviewed.